Alminavit kondangallan kutsinogit Bıydar degine bulgur hasıga Ukni giderim çın taun hasıg
Hatta doğru yamagi navi Harra hattara tekki magi Buda degine bulgur hasıg Ukni giderim çın taun hasıg
Welcome to English Cultural Programming. I'm David Heine, and today we're in the Nieuw Kerk, where there's an exhibit of Mongolia. Ever since the Middle Ages, Europe has been fascinated by Mongolia. It's a mysterious place. Oftentimes it's been vied for by Russia and China. Today it's an independent state. This exhibition marks, in some ways, the first display of some wares from some beautiful silver sculptures from the Hermitage in Russia. There are masks used from the shamanic periods of time. Many of the items that are now passing in this culture that is rapidly modernizing. This nomadic group is here conveyed through objects of art, worship. With us today is Jan Fontein, who is the curator of this exhibit. He's going to tell us what's going on in and around the exhibit. Perhaps it will inspire you to come out and see it for yourself. So let's go meet Jan. Jan, I'd like to ask you how this show came together.
Well, one of the unusual things about the show is that we have pieces from Mongolia, but we also have pieces that Russian explorers brought from Mongolia in early times. So it is the first time actually that we have these two combinations. The big statue that you see behind me is one of those examples of this mixture of two provenances, you might say. The statue was brought back from the steppes by a Russian explorer and belongs to the Academy of Sciences in St. Petersburg. These pieces you can find all over the vast steppes, from almost Korea to the Black Sea, you might say. And they were usually made by Turkish-speaking peoples, nomads, who made those as images of their ancestors. And the other one that stands next to him, the little boy, is a piece that comes from Mongolia itself. And as you see, they like to represent their ancestors drinking. You know, one has a wine bottle in his hand and the other a cup. So we know what they valued in life.
Now we've, for a very long time here in Europe, been fascinated by Mongolia. It has a kind of a mysterious mystique about it. And why do you think that is?
Well, we always, when we say Mongolia, we think Genghis Khan. And the odd thing about this exhibition is that there is nothing of Genghis Khan in this exhibition, because Genghis Khan didn't leave anything that you'd like to show in a museum. And other shows have always tried to ride on the name recognition of Genghis Khan and call themselves, the descendants of Genghis Khan or something. We decided to stick to the word Mongolia because there is, in all honesty, Genghis Khan left ruins behind. He did not leave anything lasting, and his tomb has yet to be found. It is reputed to have great treasures in it, but until such time as his tomb, which so far has eluded grave robbers and archaeologists alike, as long as that tomb isn't found, we can't do an exhibition on Genghis Khan. What we do is an exhibition on what the Mongolians did centuries after Genghis Khan had gone, when the Mongols had already retreated from their vast imperium into their original homelands, and when Buddhism came to Mongolia in the 16th century. That's the pièce de résistance of this exhibition.
Now, I notice you have treasures in your exhibition, both from Mongolia and from Russia. Could you describe a few of these for me?
Well, the bulk of the pieces comes from the National Museums of Mongolia, and among them are their greatest treasures. Much of what Mongolia had in the way of art was destroyed during the Stalinist terror of 1937-38. But what is left, the Mongolians really gave us their best pieces, including some of the finest sculptures made by the great sculptor Zanabazar, who was, you might say, the Dalai Lama of Mongolia. He was the highest spiritual leader and the greatest artist, rolled into one. It's amazing. It's like, you might say, as if Michelangelo had been elected Pope or something like that. His truly great sculptures are here in the exhibition. Then we have very fine paper mache masks that were made for a kind of exorcist ritual. The Mongols were originally shamanist, and for Buddhism to prevail in Mongolia, they had to adopt many of the shamanistic exorcist practices. And their great dance festival, in which demonic figures with great demonic masks danced, is the result of this intermingling of shamanistic and Buddhist practices, and they belong to the great pieces. Then another very special group is a set of silver statues that were given to the Buryat, that were given by the Buryat Mongols, who live in the area adjacent to northern area around the Lake Baikal in the former Soviet Union, in Russia. And these Hori Buryats, as they are called, Mongols themselves, donated some of their finest silver Buddhist statues on 3 different occasions to the Russian Tsar, Nicholas II. First as his crown prince in 1891, and later in 1896, and as late as 1913. They donated statues to him. We have found these statues in the treasure room of the Hermitage in St. Petersburg, and I think they're shown here for the first time. Magnificent statues. It's kind of tragic. Some of them were given to the 4 little princesses who also lost their lives when the Tsarist family was killed by the Bolsheviks. But the art of the Hori Mongols has survived. These pieces have survived. All the other silver pieces that were ever made have disappeared. These ended up in the treasure room of the Hermitage and were preserved for posterity.
Now, some years back I saw a beautiful film about Mongolia in which it was a husband and wife, and they lived out on the steppes, and then in the end he bought a television set and brought it out to them, and it was kind of the demise of their ancient manner of living as a nomad. Is this happening in Mongolia?
Well, you know, one of the surprising things is that almost all the people I know in Mongolia live in Soviet-style apartment buildings in the capital Ulaanbaatar, where a large capital in which about 1/3 of the population of Mongolia resides. But they're just one step away from their nomadic culture. I traveled with a group of 13 Mongols into the countryside and visited a family living in one of those gers, you know, the round tents that is typical for Mongolia, and of which we have two, one in the exhibition and one outside the exhibition, to attract attention to this very ingenious adaptation to the harsh climate of Mongolia. Of these 13 people, there was only one who, a woman of about 40 years old, who admitted having been born in a clinic. All the others had been born in a ger, in a tent, and they felt completely at home with nomadic life. And many Mongols hope, after their retirement, to go back and live in a ger again. And it is very comfortable living. You know, it's a perfect adaptation to the scorching summer heat and the really bone-chilling cold of the winter in Mongolia. They have adapted themselves to the harsh conditions of their environment, and they use only locally available material to build them. The ger is Mongolia's greatest contribution to world culture, I think.
Now, you lived in a tent for about a year, didn't you? How was that?
It's weird. It's a magic experience. We trusted our lives, and my wife she has a big zipper here now from a heart operation. We trusted our whole existence on something we made ourselves. We made the tent together. We pitched it there together. We chose a spot together. The spot is very important. And in Holland, there's not so much place. We survived the whole winter, the storms, the hails, the sunny days. We survived about 5 visitors daily, average, throughout the whole winter. And we managed to give them tea and food as far as we had to all the visitors, which is an important thing for a tent, hospitality. Even with her having that heavy situation with the operation and everything. So when we were doing it, and especially after it, I say, you know, you can make dreams come true. That was what it was. You live in a tent. We stopped doing it because it became economically too expensive, funny enough. The cost of firewood was too high. And the tent was originally made for renting, for meeting more people. And where we were, I say we'll have like 5 visitors a day, different people all the time. Because everybody wants to see how they do it. And renting out the tent, we get a different public, a more concentrated form, who are into this kind of thing. And that's what the tent was made for making people experience this, meet each other also in a very informal way. So that's what the tent's being used for now.
The Mongols have this particular style of singing in which one voice produces two tunes. You know, it's called throat singing. It's a very peculiar technique that is only found in Mongolia and neighboring countries. But we have another thing that is very interesting, also connected with Mongolian music. We have a two-string violin called a morin khur by the Mongolians, and usually these pieces have a horse's head. You know, Mongolia is nothing without horses, and the theme of the horse you find everywhere. But this is a very special one. It is a three-headed a horse with three heads mounted on the scroll of the violin, and only when we were installing this piece here in the exhibition, we noticed that the ears of the horses are made in such a way that when you play this violin and the instrument vibrates, the ears start moving. I've never seen such a thing in my life. These instruments were used not only to produce their music, in which you hear galloping horses and shouts of Genghis Khan, but also where they were also used for the bards who, like ancient Irish bards, who recited long epic poems and accompanied themselves on the two-string violin. That's one of the very special instruments in this exhibition.
Now, could I ask you, how long will the exhibition run?
The exhibition will run until the 17th of October this year, and is open every day.
Well, Jan, thank you very much for telling us about this exciting exhibit right here in the middle of Amsterdam.
Most welcome. Thank you.